What is happiness? How do we define it? Is it a feeling? Is it, from a scientific perspective?
Well, there's two main ways of measuring it, Carl. One is I send you a text on your phone right now and say, rate your happiness at this moment, on a scale of 1 to 100. And the other way is for me to sit you down and say, okay, how happy are you in life generally, Carl? And these two give kind of different answers. And the second one, the kind of life review one, is very closely tied to socioeconomic status and how well you're doing in life according to these kind of measures of status. The other one, the momentary one, is much less determined by that. And it's all about happiness in the moment, pleasure in the moment. You maybe just had a really great conversation or cracked a joke with someone. You've just heard a bird sing, and at that moment your momentary mood is up and you feel happy. So these are two quite different things. And nowadays people are saying happiness is quite a narrow concept. I mean, it's because it isn't a single thing. And they're now talking about flourishing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
About flourishing. And that's interesting because the measures they use of flourishing, which is much more not just your what we call hedonic happiness, but your feeling of meaning in your life, feeling of purpose, feeling of connection with other people, feeling that there's something bigger than yourself. When you measure flourishing in that way, then the old kind of Finland and Sweden are at the top of the tree and Ghana's at the bottom tilts completely. And some of the apparently most flourishing countries in the world are quite unpredicted, like Indonesia, for example.
Oh.
Yeah. And it seems to go a lot to do with religious beliefs and people feeling a sense of meaning, connection, purpose, and being part of something bigger for religious reasons. Yeah.
Do you think happiness, or that question of are you happy? It's a very difficult question for someone to be asked, I think.
Yeah.
Or do you take your steer on it? But I think we're caught up in the rat race of life of chasing the end goal, of chasing that idea of actually stopping to ponder.
Yeah.
Happiness. It's a difficult thing to do.
It's a difficult thing to do. And how do you measure it? Is it this morning? No, I wasn't.
Because it can change over the course of the day.
Yeah. So happiness is elusive in that way, in a way that a sense of purpose or meaning or flourishing is less elusive, and it is a bit of a will in the wisp to chase. I want to be happy. It's so you'll never catch it if you set that as your major.
In the world we live in, we often, it is often framed by that end product, isn't it? In terms of social media, that we could be flicking through. We see someone in a new kitchen or a new car or a location, like a lot of the younger influencers. They're in Indonesia, they're in Bali, they're that we think, if we lived there or if we got that, that'd make us happy.
And that's such a hiding to nothing. These are the extrinsic goals, the things like wealth, celebrity, status. If you start gauging or making them your targets, you're almost certain to be less happy because they're competitive, and there's always someone richer, more famous, more successful, bigger celebrity than you, better looking than you, slimmer than you, fitter than you, runs faster than you. Mm-hmm. So competitive goals are almost the recipe for the opposite. And we know that people who hold materialist values are haunted by feelings of dissatisfaction because they have drug-like effect. Materialism creates drug-like effects. So you get your new car and you're delirious for the first week. And the smell of the leather and the new car, and they're wonderful. And a couple of months later, I'm in my car, and that's called the hedonic treadmill.
Okay.
The hedonic treadmill, these lead to unquenchable appetites, and unquenchable appetites make you unhappy.
So that it's the quote, isn't it? That comparison is the thief of joy.
Exactly.
Like by comparing.
Exactly.
So what we're saying to people is then to improve your happiness or your chances of being happy, you look intrinsically.
Yes.
For your purpose, for your goals.
Yeah. Personal growth, relationships, health, peace of mind, and if you set goals that are related to other people, particularly not celebrity, but enjoying your friends, enjoying your relatives, and even better, being altruistic towards them. Altruism gives your brain incredibly nourishing hits of dopamine activity, kind of slow burn activity in the brain's reward network, and which really produce the what's called Aristotle called eudaimonic happiness. That's more like flourishing. That's happiness that's linked to purpose and meaning and connection.
And from altruism, we're saying from volunteering, charity.
Helping out the old lady next door, giving your friend a dig out, just going out of your way, particularly interestingly if it involves effort.
Okay.
Effort, doing something that takes effort triggers an extra reward in the brain. It's very interesting.
That explains why if you help the older person lift the shopping, or move the stuff or whatever, you get a lasting joy from that.
You will, and it's more longer lasting than the new car. And yes, if you catch someone just after they've done something like that, say, tell me how happy are you in this moment? The evidence is they'll be significantly happier. Yeah.
Do we incorrectly associate happiness with kind of physical symptoms sometimes, in terms of like smiling or posture or being kind of deliriously happy?
Yeah.
We see those as signs of happiness.
And they probably are. Yeah. They probably are. Although if you went into a mindfulness class and saw people sitting there, focusing on their attention, maybe feeling incredibly calm and peaceful, you wouldn't see that. But yes, generally, people who are tightly connected, who have good relationships with other people, they smile a lot. They laugh a lot. And when you smile and you laugh, that has, even if you fake the smiling, it has backward effects into the brain. That you can.
Oh yeah, fake it so you make it. That idea kind of portraying the optimistic as opposed to pessimistic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so if as you go about your day, smile more. And actually, the interesting thing about smiling, people smile back at you.
Oh yeah. It's
gas. There's a mirroring. There is a mirroring scenario that goes on there.
There's a very interesting study that was done. There's a German phrase called "wie Luft behandeln." That is when someone blanks you. They could look in your eyes when they pass you, but they don't. They don't catch their eye. And they did a study with complete strangers in the street, and they went up and got them to rate their feeling of being connected to other people after a stooge had walked by them and actually not met their eye or met their eye. And the people who had, and this was done in hundreds and hundreds of people, the people who had felt blanked in that way had significantly lower feeling of connection to other people.